The chamber of the Galactic Council stretched vast and imposing. A circular coliseum of polished obsidian and hovering data screens, all centered around a single elevated platform. Here, representatives of the most powerful species in the known galaxy dictated the fate of countless worlds. And in the farthest, least regarded seat sat Captain Jake Carter, humanity's lone representative, an afterthought to the greater empires. As the session began, the Zifran emissary, a towering reptilian with gilded scales and contempt dripping from every syllable, addressed the council. The Vorax swarm has breached our outer defenses. Entire fleets have been consumed. If reinforcements do not arrive soon, the Zifran Empire will fall. A ripple of murmurs passed through the assembly. The Vorak were a nightmare given form, a hive-mind species of terrifying adaptability. Every conventional weapon thrown at them became useless within hours. The greatest fleets of the galaxy had barely slowed them down. Despite the severity of the crisis, the council members were more concerned with their own standing than with aiding the Zifrans. The Tavax, a species of crystalline intellects, pondered whether intervention would be strategically sound. The ocean, their flowing water-formed bodies shifting in their containment fields, debated the historical consequences of such entanglements. And when the discussion turned toward the topic of reinforcements, the idea of humanity's involvement wasn't even considered, until Jake Carter spoke up. "If you need adaptable fighters, we can help," Jake said, his voice cutting through the chamber's diplomatic droning. "Humans specialize in unpredictable warfare. We don't fight by the book, and that's exactly what you need against the Vorak." A collective scoff swept through the council. The Zifran emissary sneered. "You believe your kind, the weakest in this hall, could succeed where superior species have failed?" Jake leaned forward. "Let's not pretend brute force has worked so far. You've thrown everything you have at them, and they keep adapting. Maybe what you need isn't superiority. Maybe it's creativity." A pause, a flicker of consideration. Then a dismissive wave of the Zifran's clawed hand. "You propose a desperate gamble. We require warriors, not improvisers." Jake clenched his jaw. He had expected this. Humanity had clawed its way into galactic affairs, but they were still seen as the underdogs, the lesser race, too fragile, too chaotic, too human. Before he could argue further, a new voice interjected. "They might have a point." Dr. Emily Wright, one of Earth's top engineers and xenobiologists, adjusted her glasses as she spoke. "We've studied Vorak biology. They don't just adapt, they anticipate. They predict based on patterns. But humans? We're unpredictable. That's something they won't see coming." The council exchanged doubtful glances. A creature of pure logic, the Tavax high thinker turned a crystalline gaze toward Emily. "And what strategy do you propose? Surely it is not simply to be erratic?" Emily smiled. "That's exactly what I propose." Another murmur of disbelief rippled through the hall, but the Zifran emissary hesitated. Their empire was losing. Their warriors were dying. And deep in their predator instincts, desperation gnawed. Sergeant Ryan Jinx Miller, leaning casually against a pillar, arms crossed, grinned. "Give us a chance. Worst case scenario, we fail, and you get to say I told you so. Best case, we save your scaly hides." The Zifran studied them, his slitted eyes betraying grudging consideration. "A waste of effort," he muttered. Then, reluctantly, "But we have no better options." The decision was made. Humanity, the species mocked for its weakness, was now being sent to do what the galaxy's greatest empires could not. As Jake and his team left the chamber, Noah Jackson, their civilian scientist, fell into step beside him. "You think they'll actually listen when we get there?" he asked. Jake exhaled sharply. "Not a chance, but they'll listen when we win." And with that, they boarded their ship, heading straight into the war no one thought they could win. The Intrepid, humanity's flagship, emerged from hyperspace into the embattled Zifran system. The void before them was a tapestry of destruction. Hulking remnants of Xiphran warships drifted aimlessly, victims of the relentless Vorak swarm. The Vorak, a hive-mind species, had adapted to every conventional tactic thrown at them, rendering traditional warfare futile. Captain Jake Carter stood on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the devastation displayed across the panoramic viewport. "Status report," he commanded, his voice steady despite the grim scene. Dr. Emily Wright, the ship's chief engineer and xenobiologist, analyzed the incoming data streams. The Vorak exhibit advanced swarming behavior, adapting their formations in real time to counter threats, she noted, referencing studies on swarm intelligence klab.tch.harvard.edu. Their collective decision-making is instantaneous, making them a formidable opponent. Sergeant Ryan Jinx Miller, leaning casually against a console, added, "Guerrilla tactics have historically been effective against superior forces by exploiting unpredictability. en.wikipedia.org. We need to think outside the box." Noah Jackson, the team's civilian scientist, chimed in, "Their hive mind operates on predictability. Introducing chaos could disrupt their coordination." The ship's comm system crackled to life, revealing the stern visage of Xiphran Commander Zaltor. "Human vessel, state your purpose," he demanded, his tone laced with disdain. Jake straightened. "Commander Zaltor, we are here to assist in combating the Vorak threat." Zaltor's reptilian eyes narrowed. "Assist? Your species is ill-equipped for such a foe." Jake met his gaze unflinchingly. "Perhaps, but our unconventional methods might succeed where traditional tactics have failed." After a tense pause, Zaltor conceded, "Very well, do as you must." With limited support from the Ziphrans, the human team convened in the Intrepid's strategy room. Holographic projections of Vorak ships swarmed around them, their movements erratic yet coordinated. Emily highlighted patterns within the swarm. "Their predictability is their weakness. If we can introduce variables they haven't encountered, we might disrupt their cohesion." Jinx proposed, "We could deploy decoy drones emitting random signals to confuse their sensors." Noah expanded on the idea. "Additionally, we could simulate swarm behavior ourselves, creating false targets to mislead them." Jake nodded. "Let's implement these strategies. Prepare the drones and initiate the simulations." As the team worked tirelessly, the Intrepid launched a series of decoy drones into the battlefield. These drones emitted erratic signals, mimicking the Vorak's communication patterns but with deliberate anomalies. Simultaneously, simulated swarms projected false human fleet movements, creating a labyrinth of deception. The initial results were promising. Vorak units diverted from their primary targets, chasing phantom fleets and engaging decoys. This disruption allowed the Xiphran forces to regroup and mount counteroffensives. Observing the battlefield, Commander Zaltor's skepticism waned. "Your tactics are effective," he admitted begrudgingly. Jake responded, "Unpredictability is our strength. We must continue to innovate to stay ahead." Emboldened by their success, the team refined their approach. Emily developed algorithms to enhance the drones' randomness, making them even less discernible from actual threats. Jinx coordinated guerrilla-style strikes on isolated Vorak units, exploiting the confusion sowed by the decoys. However, the Vorak's adaptability remained a looming threat. Their hive mind processed the anomalies, gradually adjusting to the new tactics. Recognizing this, Noah proposed a bold plan. "We need to introduce a cognitive virus into their network," he suggested. "A data packet that, once assimilated, spreads disinformation and disrupts their collective processing." Emily cautioned, "It's risky. If they detect the intrusion, they could trace it back to us." Jake weighed the options. "It's a gamble we have to take. Prepare the virus." Deploying the cognitive virus required precision. Jinx volunteered for the mission, piloting a stealth craft deep into Vorak territory to deliver the payload. Navigating through dense enemy formations, he reached the core of the swarm and released the virus. As he retreated, the effects became evident. Vorak ships hesitated, their movements erratic. The hive mind's synchronization faltered, creating openings for allied forces. The tide of battle shifted. Zyphrin fleets, now coordinated with human support, pressed the advantage. The Vorak, for the first time, faced disarray within their ranks. Back on the Intrepid, the team monitored the unfolding chaos. Emily remarked, "We've introduced a paradox into their system. Their strength lies in unity, but now that unity is compromised." Noah added, "If we maintain, the Intrepid was a flurry of activity. Screens flickered with data, alarms blared, and the crew moved with a controlled urgency. The cognitive virus had taken effect, throwing the Vorak hive mind into disarray. Their formations were erratic, their commands sluggish, and their once unbreakable unity had begun to fracture. But Captain Jake Carter knew better than to assume victory too soon. "Status report," Jake ordered, gripping the armrest of his captain's chair. Emily Wright, the ship's chief engineer and tactical analyst, was the first to respond. Her fingers flew across the console, her eyes scanning rapidly changing data. "The virus is working. Vorak ships are losing synchronization. Some units are still functioning, but their response time has dropped significantly." Sergeant Ryan Jinx Miller let out a low whistle. "That means we've got a window to hit 'em where it hurts." He smirked. "I say we take the fight straight to their command ship and put an end to this." Noah Jackson, the team's civilian scientist and chief strategist, shook his head. "A direct assault would be reckless. Even with the hive mind disruption, they still outgun us 10-1. If they regroup, we'll be crushed." Jake exhaled, weighing his options. He had always trusted his team, Emily's brains, Jinx's guts, Noah's vision. Now, he needed all three working together. "What if we convince them they're already losing?" Emily suggested suddenly. Jake turned to her. "Explain." "We use their own confusion against them," she continued. "Their hive mind works like a massive neural network, right? Right now, parts of it are failing, but others are still functioning. If we send out a false signal, make it look like an overwhelming human fleet is approaching, they might panic and pull back." Jinx grinned. "Classic misdirection. I like it." Noah rubbed his chin, considering the plan. "It's risky. If they see through the deception, we'll be exposed." Jake nodded. "Then we make it convincing. Emily, get started on the simulations. Noah, help her make sure it looks real. Jinx, get our strike team ready. If this works, their command ship will be vulnerable. That's when we move." The crew jumped into action. Within minutes, the Intrepid systems were running high-level simulations, generating thousands of false signals. Ghost ships appeared on Vorak sensors, massive dreadnoughts, assault carriers, entire battle fleets. The Vorak, already disoriented, responded exactly as Emily had predicted. "They're shifting their forces," Noah reported. "They're pulling ships away from the command vessel to reinforce their flank." Jake's grip on his chair tightened. "That's our opening. Jinx, take your team in." Jinx grinned and tapped his rifle. "Time to knock on the Queen's door." As the Vorak forces scrambled to counter the phantom threat, the Intrepid launched its stealth strike. Jinx led a team of 6 highly trained operatives, including Emily and Noah, through the wreckage-strewn battlefield toward the Vorak command ship, a massive living fortress pulsating with eerie bioluminescent veins. The shuttle's landing was rough, but precise. The moment the ramp dropped, Jinx was out, weapon raised, his team fanning out in a tight formation. Inside, the command ship was unlike anything they had ever seen. The walls pulsed like living tissue, the floors squelched underfoot, and a thick, humid mist filled the air. "This place is a goddamn nightmare," Jinx muttered, sweeping his rifle across the corridor. Emily tapped into her scanner. "I'm picking up a central energy source deeper inside. That's where the hive mind's core must be." "Then that's where we're going," Jake said. The deeper they moved, the more they realized the Vorak were in chaos. Drone soldiers twitched and spasmed, their movements erratic, some even attacking each other. The virus was still doing its work. "They're breaking down," Noah observed. "They're like neurons misfiring." "Let's make sure they don't recover," Jinx said. They reached a massive chamber at the heart of the ship. Suspended in the center was the Vorak Queen, an enormous otherworldly being with a translucent exoskeleton and countless tendrils snaking into the ship itself. Her multifaceted eyes shimmered with intelligence and fury. The moment they stepped inside, her voice resonated in their minds. "You have infected our unity. Why do you defy the natural order?" Jake took a step forward. "Because your order means the destruction of every species you encounter. We won't let that happen." The Queen's tendrils curled. "Survival necessitates expansion. Stagnation is death." Emily spoke up. "There's another way. Coexistence. We can share knowledge, resources, find a way for both our species to thrive." The Queen's eyes flashed. "Trust is weakness. What proof do you offer?" Noah stepped forward, heart pounding. "We stopped you without wiping you out. If we wanted annihilation, we would have destroyed this ship, not come here to talk." A long silence followed. The Queen's tendrils slowly uncoiled. "You speak of an existence beyond conquest. This is new." Her gaze pierced through them, her mind weighing the possibility of change. Then, for the first time in Vorak history, the hive mind hesitated. The team returned to the Intrepid with the Queen's response, a temporary ceasefire. It wasn't peace, not yet. But it was the first step. On the bridge, Jake faced his crew. "We've proven that humanity's strength isn't just in our weapons or strategies. It's in our ability to change the game, to think differently, to offer solutions that no one else considers." Emily nodded. "The Vorak expected us to fight like everyone else. Instead, we outmaneuvered them with creativity and diplomacy." Jinx cracked his knuckles. "Let's just hope they stick to the deal." Noah exhaled. "One way or another, the galaxy just learned something today. Humanity isn't weak. We're unpredictable." Jake looked out at the stars, where the remnants of battle still lingered. "We're just getting started." The Intrepid's bridge was bathed in the soft glow of instrument panels, the crew's faces reflecting a mixture of hope and apprehension. The temporary ceasefire with the Vorak had granted humanity a fragile respite, but the path to lasting peace remained uncertain. Captain Jake Carter stood at the central console, reviewing the latest intelligence reports. His brow furrowed as he absorbed the data. The Vorak's movements were unpredictable, their intentions opaque. Dr. Emily Wright approached, her analytical mind already processing potential scenarios. "Jake, we've received a transmission from the Vorak Queen. She proposes a diplomatic summit to negotiate terms for a permanent truce." Jake's eyes narrowed. "A summit? It could be a trap." Sergeant Ryan Jinx Miller, ever the skeptic, chimed in. "Or a chance to finish what they started. I don't trust them." Noah Jackson, the team's civilian scientist and strategist, leaned against a console, his expression contemplative. "It's a risk, but also an opportunity. If there's a chance to end this conflict without further bloodshed, we have to consider it." Jake nodded slowly. "Prepare the ship for diplomatic protocols. We'll proceed with caution." The Intrepid set course for the designated meeting point, a neutral asteroid belt on the fringes of known space. As they approached, the crew couldn't shake the feeling of walking into the lion's den. Upon arrival, the Vorak command ship loomed ominously against the backdrop of stars. Jake, Emily, Jinx, and Noah boarded a shuttle, their faces set with determination. The interior of the Vorak vessel was as alien as they remembered. Organic structures pulsating with life, the air thick with humidity. They were escorted to a vast chamber where the Vorak Queen awaited, her presence both regal and intimidating. "Welcome, humans," her voice resonated within their minds. We meet as potential allies, not adversaries. Jake stepped forward, maintaining a respectful distance. We come in hope of finding common ground to end the cycle of violence between our species. The Queen's multifaceted eyes shimmered. Trust is earned through actions, not words. What do you propose? Emily produced a holographic device, projecting images of Vorak and human worlds side by side. We suggest a mutual exchange of knowledge and resources, collaboration in areas beneficial to both our species: technology, medicine, agriculture. Noah added, by working together, we can overcome challenges neither of us could face alone. We can thrive without conflict. The Queen's tendrils undulated thoughtfully. Your proposal is intriguing. However, there are factions within our hierarchy resistant to change. They may seek to undermine these efforts. Jinx's hand instinctively moved to his weapon. Are you saying there's a coup brewing? Not yet, the Queen replied. But dissent festers. We must proceed carefully. Jake exchanged a glance with his team. Then we move forward with transparency and vigilance. Let's draft the initial terms of our alliance. Hours turned into days as both parties engaged in meticulous negotiations. Despite cultural differences and mutual suspicion, progress was made. A framework for cooperation began to take shape, offering a glimmer of hope for a peaceful future. However, as the delegation prepared to finalize the agreement, an urgent alert echoed through the chamber. Vorak soldiers, their movements frantic, relayed information to the Queen. What is it? Jake asked, sensing the tension. The Queen's expression hardened. A rogue faction within our ranks has launched an assault on your homeworld. They reject our alliance and seek to continue the war. Emily's face paled. Earth is under attack? Noah's mind raced. If they succeed, all we've worked for will be lost. Jinx clenched his fists. We need to get back and defend our planet. The Queen raised a tendril. Allow us to assist. A joint defense would demonstrate our commitment to this alliance. Jake hesitated, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. Trusting former enemies with the defense of Earth was a gamble, but rejecting their help could doom their planet. Agreed, he said finally. Let's show both our species that unity is stronger than division. The intrepid and Vorak forces mobilized with unprecedented coordination, racing against time to reach Earth. As they emerged from hyperspace, they were met with the sight of battle, rogue Vorak ships bombarding Earth's defenses. All units, engage, Jake commanded, his voice resolute. The ensuing battle was fierce. Human and loyal Vorak ships fought side by side, their combined firepower gradually turning the tide. Amidst the chaos, Jake's shuttle navigated through enemy lines, heading straight for the rogue flagship.